Hi, I'm Ryan Krause.
And I'm Cole Smith. And we are Paranormal Investigators.
And this is Nights of the Dark. We are paranormal investigators researching stories throughout Saskatchewan.
You'll see exactly what we see. No sound effects, no scary music, and no video effects. Well, you're probably wondering what this show is about. Well, grab yourself a cup of coffee, pull up a tombstone, and enjoy, because we're going to tell you a little bit about the paranormal.
Absolutely.
And what we've researched and what we've done, and we're going to answer your questions. So how did this come about, this particular episode? Because you contacted me about this.
Yeah, I had a brainstorm. It's like, we're always at random places and people are always like, hey, have you ever done this? Have you ever done this? What's this? What's this? I was like, maybe we should do an online campaign, get you from the Facebook page and the website, nightsofthedark.com, to email us, Facebook us, whatever, and ask questions. And we picked a bunch and we're going to answer them for you.
Yeah, so a lot of people do wonder what we do. They want to get behind the scenes, so to speak. Yeah. And of course, we'll tell you everything that we know. If you watch our show, Nights of the Dark, which is a paranormal investigation show, we go around to areas within
Saskatchewan.
Yeah, within Saskatchewan. We used to keep it down to an hour or two circumference, so to speak, around Yorkton. But now we've gone to pretty much all corners of the province. Well, I wouldn't say, we haven't gone like way up to
north.
We've gone as far Uranium City.
We haven't gone as far an hour north of Hudson Bay as the farthest we've gone north.
But we've gone pretty much to as far as you can drive. We've gone to some pretty strange locations and some pretty distant locations from one of the province to the next. So I think we are approaching our 4th or 5th season. I'm not keeping score. 5?
Number 5.
Holy mackerel, doing this a long time. But pretty soon I'm going to be one of the people that we're looking for. We keep this up. Episode 17.
Yeah, first idea was 2012. First aired 2013.
Wow. Yeah. Okay. Well, you're the facts guy. Yeah. So the general gist of the show is we'll show you exactly what we find. If you know anything about Access, and you might because you're actually watching it on Access, let's hope, unless you're bootlegging it or you got a CD or DVD from somebody. The format, Access 7, the channel itself is not built on ratings. And there's no commercial, the revenue is generated by the users, by the people that actually subscribe to the cable channel. So, or if you buy cable,
and phone, and
if you buy Access's services, they put the money back into the station. That's where the funding comes from. It's a little bit like PBS in that way, that it's not about ratings. So if it's not about ratings, that means we don't have to pump the show up. We don't have to make it believable to the point where you're going to watch to see that there is a ghost or there is a voice. We don't have to lie. We don't have to pump stuff up and pretend. It's pretty raw. It's like, this is what we found. I am more skeptical than Ryan, but Ryan is also skeptical too. And I will accept some beliefs too that are a little bit esoteric. So we kind of mix that way. Yeah. We're not out to disprove or prove anything. We would just like to find some answers If we do, we do. If we don't, we've found something.
Yeah, we've been to locations where we've had results, and we've been to locations where we didn't.
Yeah, and we show you honestly what we get. So we hope to have that trust instilled in our show, that if you do see something really freaky and see something with us, that really happened, and it wasn't just a fabrication. So,
and if the show's long and drawn out and kind of boring, and we have like 12 seconds of the same shot and then a gong, that's probably because we didn't have much go on that episode.
Right. So, you know,
that's just what it is.
We'll tell you the history of the place. We'll show you the location. That in itself is fascinating, because you can drive to it. You know, you can hear the stories, you can investigate these yourself, because if you're watching right now, you're probably only a few hours away from some of these locations. You know, and if you wanted to make a day trip or a night trip, you know, if you live on the other side of the province, just come on in for 4 or 5 hours, this area, spend the night, get a hotel room, and go investigate. You know, many of the spots are within the Yorkton region, so get a backlog of the shows.
And one thing that's really cool about the show is, and I think I've said this before, is I've probably learned more while filming this show about Saskatchewan than I ever did in school. And that's not just in school, that's just saying that because we were going to these places that I didn't know exist, for like Ross Percy, for example, you know, in Cypress Hills, a place you'll eventually find out about. And we had to do our research, and amongst research, you're like, wow, this is really fascinating.
That's right. When you're sitting in school and they're just telling you about what it was used for, it's not always the most fascinating, you know. But when you're actually a little bit scared there at 1 o'clock at, you know, after midnight, looking for ghosts or monsters, all of a sudden resonates with you.
Yeah, and then you remember it.
Yeah. So let's get on with the questions. So Ryan, you compiled this list.
Yep.
I just basically read them fast like last week, and I didn't formulate any thoughts because I wanted to keep it fresh. I haven't even looked at it today, even though I printed it out for him. So, because the answers are not rehearsed. We're just going to kind of go.
Yeah, we're winging this.
We're winging this.
Like we do always.
Like we do always. So
why there's a blooper reel.
Yeah. And of course, these are questions that, as I went through, I went, a lot of people ask me similar questions, although there's some really unique ones there.
There's a couple that I actually laughed out pretty good.
All right, so let it roll. What's the first one on the...
The first one is, where did the idea for the show come from? And this I remember quite well, because we were talking to me back in early, I think it was May or something, 2012, about my storm chasing. And it was a Talk of the Town episode, and somehow at the end of the show, I think we visited for another 35, 40 minutes, and we started talking about paranormal, and we're like, well, maybe we... So we put together one show, and we're never going to re-air that because it was horrible. It has a couple other guests on there that we will mention. And they were like, okay, this was a bad idea, let's do something else. And we came up with Nights in the Dark.
Yeah, okay, so my idea goes a little bit further before that. I had already done a pilot episode with a girl that lived in town in Campsack, and she did a cooking show, but she was also interested in the paranormal. So she did an investigation show, and because I've been fascinated by that. So we did one, and it was pretty good, but it took forever, lots of editing and stuff, and she didn't have a partner. So we did find her a partner, and it was going to be 2 girls. And one was more scientific, and the other one was going to be a little bit more esoteric. So it was like Charlie's Angels of the paranormal. However, the one girl, she got pregnant, so she couldn't do it, and she moved away, so it folded. So it was always in the back of my mind that I'd like to do a show. And when I started talking to Ryan about it, and we did a pilot, you know, I thought, I'm not, as an Access employee, I'm supposed to facilitate other people's ideas and produce, direct, whatever it takes, film, arrange, do the demographics, whatever. Not the demographics. There's another word that goes with that, but I'll look that up. So in logistics, that's what I'm getting at. Coordinate everything. Then when I thought, you know, geez, Ryan, you know, maybe I could partner with him, and even though I'm not supposed to really be on the air, I just decided, what the hell. So a lot of my work too, I don't put in for hours, and Ryan does this all volunteer work. and he does all the editing. And before that, I used to do the editing, so I'd have to put in for hours. But we end up some weekends where it's like 16-hour days, like, you know.
Yeah, easy. We've done. I equally have done as much, if not more, sometimes from storm chasing to this, which we'll get into as well.
Yeah. So if I put in all the hours, you know, on one weekend, that would be like my whole week's worth of wages.
And that's not even the episode finished. That's just filming.
Yeah. Then we've got to come back and we've got to do the wrap up. We got to do the results, and then the editing. So there's lots of work to each show. So after we did the pilot, and I approached Ryan, basically with the idea formulated, it's easier if I lay it out to someone and say, here's what we could do, here's what I can bring, blah, blah, blah. You just have to say yes and fill in the blanks, and it worked.
And we also originally had a different name for the show. Top of my head, I can't think of what it is at the moment, but it was trademarked or copyrighted to a Swedish death metal band. So we went with Knights of the Dark.
Yeah. Ghosts Are Us was taken.
Yeah. We also used YPA, which was Yorkton Paranormal Association, but we didn't want to, link it down to just being the Yorkton area. So we dropped that idea really fast.
Yeah, and now it's become the international success. You could tell I'm laughing, yes.
Yeah. Well, it is aired bootlegged in Spain, so technically.
Yeah, it has been seen around the world.
Yeah, and that's a fact, because they contacted me.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So that's how the show basically began. Now aren't you sorry you asked? You're all going to be sorry by the end of this show.
What is the story behind the third image in your promo? I see it on Facebook. So, like I said earlier, the campaign that we did, and there's a series of 4 images. I'm sure one of them will pop up. And what that is that was a carving we found in Roche Percy, Saskatchewan, which is in the southeast corner. And it was in one of the caves, and I still think it's one of my coolest photos I've ever taken a photo of. It was brilliant.
It's amazing the things that we found out researching this place that I'll just say is like a little cave labyrinth in the middle of nowhere, very close to the American border. Yeah. So, a fascinating place that you can go and check out yourself.
Other than the cost to change over, why are paranormal investigations done in IR camcorders and not exclusively with video recorders that can capture more light spectrums, like full spectrum camcorders claim they can? Not 100% sure. With us, I have an IR camcorder that actually can do full spectrum, but the old full spectrum video quality is absolutely horrific. What they mean by full spectrum is when you're on quote unquote night vision mode, it has color associated. I used it when I did that first time at the Sarah house in Kenora, and we use what we use just because we get the best video quality out of it. That's about the easiest answer
I think so.
Of.
I don't know where he's quite going with that, except that maybe he thinks that the full spectrum will capture the essence of a spirit or an interdimensional being, whatever it is, that the camera may capture it being more full spectrum. I don't know if there's any evidence at that at all. If indeed that is even what you're capturing, if you do capture what you might say is a spirit or a ghost or some sort of anomaly, because certainly anomalies have been captured on everything. The majority of the stuff we have is just to help augment our own senses.
Yes.
And everything that you see on our show, you could pretty much do yourself.
Yeah. We're not going to go out and spend a ton of money to film the show because A, it's not a highly produced episode, we're not on like primetime television, and B, it would have to come out of our own pocket, which means you guys would have to buy something for us to have money in our pocket. And that's not going to happen, so that's what it is.
You want to donate, help sponsor the show, by all means, we'll use whatever you want. But at the same time, remember too, is you're also showing them stuff that can be somewhat unbelievable, right? Like, depending on what you have, if when somebody shows you something, when you see something on radar on TV, you're like, since we don't know anything about radar, it's like you see a little blip and you're like, okay, I don't know, and it moves here. You're just taking the guy's word for it that this is an anomaly, and I'm like, So you see what I'm going at? If you don't know the calibration of how these instruments do work, you're kind of sometimes you're at the mercy of the person telling you what it is. So
Right.
this
And
way,
the mercy of the camera.
yeah. This
the
way, we're
equipment.
just showing you what we found, and you can make up your own mind.
Right. What is the scariest place that we have investigated to date? Love the show. Keep up the great work.
Probably the most popular question.
I think so.
I think that's what I get. You know, next to how much do you get paid?
Yeah.
You know, if I told you tens and tens of dollars, I would be pretty close.
It's like the level of fans, eh?
Yeah. And so the general gist of that one, I'll let you go with that.
Okay. Well, I'm going to say my first one. I kind of have a couple. I'll go with my first one was one we did more recent, and that was probably, I'm going to say Mapleton. Not because it was quite exactly the scariest place, but we had probably one of the most intense situation where we almost felt like the situation was out of our control and we decided to leave, which that never ever happened before. So that's why I would put that. But at the same time, Sinnott, when I walked down that gravel road and I left you guys while you were filming, and I had this really, really weird experience, and I felt like something was coming at me from all ends. And this was, I didn't know what the story was. They didn't tell me, that, which is sometimes a cool thing that we do on the show. And then for them to tell me that people go down that road and feel like something's running at them, to have that experience, I was like, when I came out there, I was probably pretty white. I was like, okay, I just literally felt like something was about to kill me. So those would be my two. And next is Cole's House, but we've already talked about that about 400,000 times before.
Yeah, my house can, that can throw you for a loop on some occasions. And, you know, when you're talking about me being skeptical, in my own house, which I've lived in now for 18 years, and, you know, I've done a number of repairs on it myself. So I know, and I mean a lot of repairs. I've helped with the structure, the structural problems that it's had. You know, so I'm not an expert, but, you know, at least from the roof to, you know, to the structural basement, I'm aware of certain creaks and groans, and but then there's stuff that's just unexplainable.
Yes.
When you hear the creaks that actually sound like they're actually walking upstairs, unmistakable sound of the door opening and someone coming in the porch. You know, I mean, it's one thing to hear the door, it could be a million things, right? It could actually be someone at the door, but we've got a porch area. But when you hear the door and the porch all together, that there's a certain sequence of sounds. When those all line up, I'm inclined to go, yeah, there's someone on the porch.
Yeah. Or when your guitar string just strums by itself.
Yeah, I mean, there's certain things where you don't have an answer for. I'm not going to gravitate towards just going, that's a ghost, a spirit, but it does
something.
It does give you a little bit of that, you know, the hair standing on the back of your neck, or as my Italian friend said, chicken skin. You know what? My answer is your answer, the first one. Mapleton.
Place was intense.
From what went to a very, and I think this is probably, it's the dichotomy of how we started off that particular episode. In the afternoon was peaceful and calm and very, very comforting.
Yeah, cheery almost.
Yeah,
well,
cheery.
But
well, yeah.
Yeah, we had no negative vibe at all.
And we went back at night, same thing. It was just darker. Still very, very cool, very, you know. So we went in without feeling the least bit freaky or weird. Not at all. Like it was welcoming. And it took a dive real fast, and it just got really, we didn't know how many things were inside, in the walls, were outside. I was holding the door thinking like, there might be a bear out there. Like I wasn't thinking there's a zombie or something, right? But there was something big. I heard the grunt. I don't think he heard the grunt.
Yeah. The camera recorded it.
Yeah. And we heard some bangs, and we heard, you know, he heard something outside. I didn't, because I was further back, but then I heard a grunt, and I thought, that sounds like a bear. And we were isolated enough that it could very well have been. I mean, And it was, it was getting near hibernation season. So
until we poked our head out, and the inside of the church was louder than the outside, and the outside was dead silent. We're like, okay, there's no bear out here. All right. Unlike the average TV show that has a camera crew, producer, etc., it sounds like you two do all the work from start to finish. If this is the case, could you do a timeline of how each show is made?
Well, I'm just wondering how they know that's the case. Hey, camera guy, you are a stupid. See, there's no camera guy.
Yeah, nobody picked it up.
I'm going to have to go pick that cup up because we don't have...
yeah, this is when we edit the footage.
We don't have attendance.
Yep. So basically, like February and March, I start sitting down and start going through a map and picking some locations. Then we have a couple meetings between then and April. We kind of get an idea of what the show is, like of what locations we're planning on for that season. Because sometimes we take a trip and we'll go out for a few days and we try to nail off a whole bunch of shots. We get to the location, like you said earlier, we film during the day, then we go back and we film at night. That way we can see the lay of the land for safety reasons and all that kind of stuff. Make sure there's no holes in the ground, power lines laying, safety stuff, eh? The nails sticking out of the ground. You can see all that stuff during the day. When we're there, we're filming. He has his camera, which is we're being used to film this. I have the handheld one, which is also my storm chasing camera. We do all our stuff. We come back at night. We do the same thing, except then at nighttime I use my night vision camera. And then when we're all done, pretty much call it a day, go to bed, collect all the data, all the video files, audio files, whatever. Load that up on the hard drive. Sometimes it could be months later when we actually load onto the computer. And that's when I sit down, literally go by second of all the footage, wearing my headphones, listening. I watch for particular things at the same time I'm listening to something like say a voice or something that'll be abnormal. And I mark those all down, which becomes the results. From the results, then we film the results, and then I actually, when we're doing the video editing, place that first so we know how long to make the show, and then we make the show, and that becomes the show.
That's a really good show. There was a sale on the word show. 3 for $9.95, ladies and gentlemen. And it's filmed live. It's when we show up, it's not like we're there for a whole week, and it's not like we're camping out. We take a little slice of time because we don't have all the time in the world to spend on one location to try to find something.
Yeah, we both work full-time jobs.
Yeah. So we take a slice of time, meaning, Friday night between 8 and 1 in the morning, we're going there. And that's what you see is that little slice, that one night. I mean, maybe things do happen there. Maybe things didn't that particular time.
Yeah.
So what? We'll go back in the, 2 seasons later and do it again because we'll take a different slice of time. But what you see is what you get, and it's done by us, for you. And we make sure nobody adds anything, right? I think that's important too. There's not a cameraman behind there, so if we know we hear another sound other than us, we know it's something else. It's not us. It's not our crew. There's no other sounds that are attributed to anyone else that can, fool us or somebody that did something anomalous, even accidentally.
Yeah, even with that accident, even when we're filming, and of course it doesn't enter the show because we have to cut out parts. Say if I bang my foot on the ground, I'll be like, okay, that noise was me. So then when I'm going through it later, because it's going to be sometimes 3, 4, 5 months later, then I'll be like, oh, okay, oh, hey, there's a noise. And then I hear myself say, okay, that was me. Or if burp, we'll be like, okay, that was me, not something else. So we always make notes of what's happening if we make the noise ourselves.
Yeah, and you want to give that warning in advance to ourselves, if this makes sense.
Yeah.
Because we might leave the camera for 20 minutes in a certain location, and we'll go away so that we're not polluting the scene with, visually or audio.
Yeah.
So then, if he's listening for any anomalies, he's got his headphones on. Now imagine this, he's doing this Saturday night at midnight. He's editing and he's listening, and he's listening for a whisper or some communication with the beyond. And we come back to retrieve the camera, and you know, he doesn't know. And if you're quiet enough, all of a sudden you just hear, hey, and someone grabs the camera and the scream comes, right? So it can freak you. And trust me, that did happen, which is why we do that now. So we give ourselves a little warning that we're coming up, and that if we make a sound, we'll identify it as one that we know.
And season 2, to bring up a point there, it was probably one of the most terrified I've ever been not filming the show, but while I was sitting at home editing. I was going through the third episode at your house, and I'm alone at the house at the time. I'm sitting in the kitchen doing my stuff, and I'm asking my questions. I'm in the middle of doing whatever I'm doing. All of a sudden, they return and they bang on the window just to let them know. But holy crap, because I didn't know that was coming. When I'm going through the footage and I hear this bang on the window, I'm like, ah, like, because you're so quiet for like 10 minutes, it like startled the heck out of me. What is the difference and similarities between doing the paranormal show and storm chasing?
Compare and contrast. Remember that?
Well, we've got to do the paranormal show and storm chasing this last year, so we actually got to throw them together. In all honesty, for anybody who doesn't know, I'm a storm chaser.
There's only one guy who can really answer this question.
Yeah, YorkStormHunter.com.
So I'll let you field that question. Go ahead, I'll come back.
He's gonna go behind the camera. In all honesty, it's very, very similar. With storm chasing, we get up, I look at data, which, you know, eventually, like the show, or much like the show, we're planning our location. We'll spend hours and hours driving to a location and film the ghost show. With storm chasing, it might not happen. We call that a bust. And then we go back home. I leave at 8 in the morning, I come back at 8 in the morning the next day. We eat gas station food, very seldom good restaurants. It's very, very, very similar in that aspect. So I can say that we both have equipment, you know, with the ghost show I'm using paranormal, storm chasing I'm using all these action cameras and GoPros and stuff. So other than chasing the haunted stuff, I'm chasing tornadoes. So otherwise it's actually very, very similar.
Next question, please.
Next question is, and this is for you. What's up with the puppets at the end of the blooper reel? This is personally my favorite question. I love that someone paid attention to that.
Someone paid attention to it.
Hey, boys and girls, moms and dads, and all the rest. Welcome to the Hoist Knip Show. And introducing Schwabble, one of the most colorful characters ever to grace the internet. Schwabble's madcap antics are always unpredictable. Hilarious results can always be counted on when he gets himself into some wild scenario.
I got a call from my boss in Regina, and he goes, "What's up with that hoist knip thing?" And I'm like, "What?" He goes, "The hoist knip thing." And I'm like, "That's the puppet's name." And I'm like, "Where did he see that?" He goes, "Yeah, I'm getting a whole bunch of people asking about it. At the end of your show." Oh, yeah, we did a special. We did a special, and it was like 8 minutes too short.
Yeah, blooper reel actually.
The blooper reel. Okay, the blooper reel was short. So I was like, I got to add to it. So I was looking through my footage, and many years ago, long time ago, I used to do these puppet shows and put them on YouTube. And actually, it's kind of what got me this job here at Access, because they saw that I could film and I could edit, and I was generally an oddball, right? So that's what they were looking for. So anyway, this just came out, and I'm like, let's just put this in, work it into the show somehow, and it was basically filler. So that's basically how it came about.
Yeah, and we used one of the PG-13 ones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
and it was before the automatonophobia part.
Yes, okay, that took a while to get out, right? Automatonophobia. So people that are afraid of objects that animate like a human being, which would be a puppet, or anything mechanical that moves. People may have a phobia to that, and it's an automaton. And if you have a phobia,
It's automatonophobia.
yeah, and it goes into the thing like clowns, you know, and I don't know what it's not just clownophobia. They have to throw a Latin term in there, you know.
And if you want to see actually how incredibly popular they are, I think it's stupidvideos.com, which is like a website like YouTube. Just have, your funny cat stuff. Some of them, and I'm talking about like, there's more than 10 Hoist Knip shows on there that all have like 1 million to 1.5 million views. And I'm not even exaggerating. Like some of them are, like,
I'm still broke.
Super popular.
I got a T-shirt from them.
Yeah, I got one of them.
That's all I got. Well, no, from Stupid Videos.
From Stupid Videos.
Yeah,
Okay,
Stupid Videos actually sent me a T-shirt. Video of the week. Like, oh, okay, good. Yeah. So anyway, yeah. Hoist Knip is a strange puppet that has absolutely nothing to do with our show whatsoever, but hey, what does?
It was the blooper reel. What perfect time to use it.
What perfect time to do it. Yeah. Glad that someone was paying attention.
All right.
Oh, and the reason Wade got this stuff back from people in Regina was because it was just before a football game. It wasn't a Riders game, but it was an what was it now? Personally, I don't know, but I think it was a provincial game, and I couldn't tell you what team. But in other words, there was a lot of people tuned in waiting for the football game.
And they all watched Hoist Knip.
They had to watch the puppet show, and nobody hated it. They were just like fascinated, I guess. So, like a train wreck.
Terrified some people.
Or terrified, yes.
What's your favorite tool? Is there one that you don't have that you wish you did? I'll let you go with this one first.
Well, I guess we've talked about that earlier about, if there's one that we wish we had. There are. In some respects, I would like to have a drone, but I would like to have it controlled specifically to areas where we need it. Like basically if one of us could control it. I guess that's one piece of equipment that we could use, but it is quite a bit of a hassle to use in terms of where we go and what the regulations are.
Right.
You have to be within. It changed. It has changed over time.
Yeah, there's laws.
Yeah,
a lot of strict laws with drones.
It could be 5 kilometers within the airport, which kind of makes it nowhere in Yorkton. But anyway, that's what I'd like to have. I'd like to have some aerial shots so we could see the lay of the land.
Where do you see this show in the future?
Probably right on Access 7. Oh, okay. That's the obvious answer. The future, well, you're only going to see this show on Access 7. Yeah. If it goes network, if it goes anywhere else, I don't even know if we could call it the same name, but I don't see why not. I believe that Access really would like to be able to say that they were behind a successful show that went network or cable.
Right.
So
well, technically, I own the rights to the name. So
okay,
because I did it before it was a show. But yeah, it would be cool to pick up network. Network is a whole different game because there's so much that you don't know that gets involved in network because big time politics. And there's a lot of shows, I'm going to say some paranormal shows that stopped filming because they were told by their producer, well, because then it becomes about ratings. And you're like, well, I want this to happen. You're going to have to we're actually Paranormal Investigators have openly admitted that they were told by their producer to, I guess, embellish the truth to get higher ratings. Where, that's actually something we're very highly against.
You could see the guy sitting there with a cigar like J. Jonah Jameson. What do you got? You got a half hour? You got nothing there. You got a spider web, kids. I need some action. You need a ghost. What is a ghost show? No. What are you just walking around in a cemetery or an old house? What is this? So yeah, I could see why, they punch it up. But our show, there's no one telling us that.
Yeah, it would be cool at the same time. We know it would be a different show. Whether we want to admit it or not, it will be. There's no way around it.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, if we came in with that premise, it could work. And we just said, we're not going to punch it up. This is just going to be about what it is. And we're bringing them the truth.
Yeah. There are networks out there that will probably be okay with that. So if you're watching, that's good.
There are shows like Bob Ross painting, leaf by leaf. Hey, so we're walking leaf by leaf. It's like, I think the people like our adventure because we take them on the adventure the same way we do, with the cameras rolling as we're going through the place. And we don't throw a lot of edits in. It's just, this is it. So
yeah.
maybe there's something refreshing. So I would like to do this show on our own terms.
Yeah.
And those terms being, this is exactly what we found.
This one's another question kind of you would have to answer. Where did the theme song in the intro come from?
That came from me, my studio. I threw down some rough ideas, and that just happened to work. I put a weird harmonizer on the guitar to give it that really strange monsterish kind of sound, and with that sound on there, it just led itself to those notes. And that note choice, I was like, wow, that's cool. I was just fooling around, and that particular choice of notes is discordant enough, but yet melodic in a sense. So it's like, it worked. I mean, I know it doesn't sound like a well-produced, multi-million-dollar Fleetwood Mac recording, hey, but
when someone comes up to you and go da 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 da, I'm like, hey, that's our theme song, which is pretty awesome because I've actually had people say that.
That is cool. That is cool.
What made you want to investigate the paranormal, and what is your best case or picture or video audio that you captured?
Well, why don't you take that one first?
With me, well, like we kind of covered on how we started the show. The paranormal thing has been with me, I would literally say, my entire life. As far as I can remember, I had instances when I was 4 years old, so to speak. So for me, it was a way for me to challenge and learn of stuff that will help me in my personal life, if that makes any sense. What was one of our best cases? Cole's house was insane. Some of the best stuff we've ever caught was Cole's house, 5 different shows. St. Hubert, the things for knocking on the door in Mapleton, which we've brought up earlier. Sarah's house, an episode we did in Kenora, where we actually caught a little person saying, not mine, no. Actually, I picked up, I think, 3 different audio. That was my first time ever capturing a photo of an apparition, and maybe I'll throw some of them up here or not. We'll find out on the editing.
and while we were in her basement, or we were upstairs, I believe, we let a camera. This was the second visit, because I wasn't along in the first one, and we looked later. And even though, we try to control the area as much as possible, we knew that area was controlled, and the basement lights went on and off, or off and on.
Yeah.
I can't remember.
On and off. Yeah,
on and off.
off.
Yes, because they were off, then they went on, and they went off again. It's usually the other way around. Like when you have a light that's on, it can kind of go off because it's like a intermittent power failure. Yeah. But for something that's dark, to go light and go back is a little bit more anomalous. Yeah. An electrician would tell you the same thing too. Sorry, what was the first part of that question?
It was what made you want to investigate?
Kind of the same as like Ryan said. It's a lifelong thing. I was brought into, a spiritual, if you will, upbringing that encompassed Roman Catholicism and, if you will, the esoteric, the occult, but let's not use the occult in terms of negative, because the people and relations that I had, that they were investigating it much the same way I was. They just felt they had connections with people that wanted to do something deeper and to look into things, and they had a group of people, and that group grew, and as a kid I got to know these people, and it didn't seem weird. It was fascinating, and the religious side, I was brought up with that too, and I could see there's a correlation between the two, and you can argue that all you want, but they are so interlinked. It's one would not exist without the other, and
Absolutely.
vice versa. They invent and reinvent each other always, continuously. Somebody would say, and I bring this up about religion, how can you propagate this about ghosts and spirits? And I'm like, well, you're religious. You believe in ghosts and spirit. You believe in spirits. You believe in angels. What's an angel if not a spirit? You know,
the Holy Ghost.
The Holy Ghost. I mean, the Holy Ghost.
The word's right there.
Demons, the devil. You know, I go, do you not think of that? Like, if you don't believe, you know, if you're atheist, think of how crazy that would sound to you. Of these people they might as well tell you that there's dragons, right? It's that remote of a concept to equate this. Now, you know, just because you're brought up with this religion doesn't mean it's real. Doesn't mean that everyone has to buy it. Right? You may have strong beliefs about that. That's fine. But other people have other beliefs. You got to accept that. I sit on the fence with everything. I'm like, I'm not going to say that's a ghost, but I'm not going to say that it's an angel. And I'm not going to say that it's real, and I'm not going to say it's not real. All I could say is how I felt and what I saw and what it could be. Right. That's all. Okay, so what's the last question?
We almost covered the same one earlier, but this is a little bit different. What is the most haunted place you have investigated, and why?
Okay, so I'll say haunted is a loaded question, because then that makes me say that it's technically, by definition, has spirits or ghosts in it. Technically, by definition. Haunted is an open... First of all, we'd have to examine the word haunted. I know what they mean, but let's be clear on the definition. Haunted could mean that it's a vortex, that there's certain energies, that, in other words, that there's something unique about it that either causes anomalies or anomalies are drawn towards it. So now let me clarify. Some of that could be geological faults in the earth have been known to create hallucinations. The same way that overhead power lines have done the same too. And we've been able to find evidence of areas that have what they would say hauntings.
The Pioneer Cemetery in Saskatchewan being a good example, yeah.
With power lines going over them. And not saying that is the answer, but it is one of many answers you could use.
Something to look at,
right,
as an alternative.
So, having said that, what is the most unusual area? Well, geez, I'm gonna have to go back with good old the church, Mapleton. Unless there's somewhere else there's a few other places, obviously, but that one sure came together in a strange way real fast. Like, one sound, that's fine. Two sounds. But this was like a symphony of sounds and...
Symphony of craziness.
Yes. It's the only way I could describe it. So I'm going to stick with that.
I'm going to answer this in the way of the amount of results that we've collected that were the most interesting. And one would have been St. Hubert, down by Whitewood. The first time we went there, your camera wouldn't even turn on. We'd walk away and it would come back on. We'd walk back into it and it would turn off. So the whole show that was the first time that the old 8mm night vision camcorder was the star of the show, because nothing else would work.
Nothing else worked.
And the second time we also had weird, like the knocking on the door. Another place would have been, once again, a place like Sarah's house, where we had a lot, like I think it was like 12 minutes of stuff we collected. Between random orbs flying over, spikes on the EMF.
Oh yeah, definitely, yep.
Yeah, various audio recordings, that one talking that almost sounded like a television set talking, but the TV wasn't on. That was very, very, very robotic.
Yeah, there was even that little, to me it looked like a balloon that was let out.
Yeah.
And then there was a wee sound.
It had a noise, and you thought it was a kid, and I was like, there was no kids there.
I was like, oh, that's a kid. Yeah. I listened to that so many times. Yeah. There was like a weird orb that shot between us at the intro.
Yes, yeah, which looked almost the same as the little fiber thing.
And this is all based on the fact that she came up to us and mentioned, or came up to you and mentioned all of the stuff that happened. So this wasn't like we had discovered this. Yeah, there was apparently lots going on even before we went there.
It was the fan of the show that contacted us, and us went. But I would have to say, if I put all the stuff, all of our results on one episode, we can easily have an hour-long show just at your house. Between that weird finger thing to all the orbs, to the spikes, to the sounds, to that weird clicking noise that sounds like something from the Predator movie, to the walking when I was alone in the basement hearing something walking upstairs. We can put an entire show. So on the aspects of results wise, I would say the most haunted we've been to in that field would be this guy's house. I want to ask, this question wasn't asked, but it's a personal question I want to ask because I think it'd be a cool one to ask. And out of all the places we've ever gone to, what is, and not aspect of the paranormal, but what would one of the places that you were the most excited to go to, or the most joy out of finally getting to see, like in the aspect of history, or you know, something you always want to see and you were super excited when you've seen it? Was there a place that popped out like that?
Yeah, except there's a few, and I can't, you know.
Well, okay, while you're
Rosh
thinking of...
Piercy was definitely one, but I'm not going to say it was the most. Batoche was another one.
Batoche is super cool.
Yeah, the history of Louis Riel and whatnot. Going to finding for once the town there just outside of Kenora.
Mohilla?
Mohilla. That was one of our first season, I think, was...
Yeah, that one house was pretty crazy.
Yeah.
It's not there no more.
Yeah. Seeing the UFOs that we saw on the way, that's another story.
Yeah. Which was, I think, our first night filming.
It might have been.
Yeah.
That we were unprepared for that. So unprepared, I mean, that we stopped with the cameras to take a glimpse of what we could, and you know, we had professional cameras, and we still could not
find a way to focus on what
to focus and film these in a way that you could present them to people, even though we stood there for 3 to 4 minutes and watched what turned out to be 12 or 13 lights all moving in a formation. I contacted several authorities on that to find out, is that UFOs? Are those satellites? Are those formation of aircraft? They did not display aircraft signatures of blinking. It fascinated me as I watched it for those 3 to 4 minutes.
And I believe we also put in a report to MUFON, yes.
Yes, Mutual UFO Organization.
.org or .com, whatever they're. Google them. Mine, and this was just done this year, and that was the Spirit Rocks, whatever you want to call them, at the Cypress Hills area. Going to that area, unfortunately Cole never made it. It was like, how long? 2 hours, hour and a half long. It was a grueling hike, and I pushed myself.
After like the 5th or 6th hill, and when I say hill, I mean...
They're like very big.
I'm like, I'm just gonna die here if I go any further. It was hot. 41
degrees Celsius. I had something like 120 some mosquito bites on my back, but I didn't stop. I was like literally soaking wet by the time I went there, and I didn't have this on. I was just my t-shirt and my pants. But when I finally got there, and you'll notice it when you watch the footage too. I was like on a different level of I was so excited to finally see this place. And I think when I first got there, the very first thing I did was actually just touch them, because it was so amazing and so cool, and it was like almost an honor to be in its presence. You know, it was one of the coolest things I've ever experienced in my entire life. I was so excited, all because of Nights of the Dark on Access 7.
Wow, that's cool. So you guys are going to have to watch the series, which is on every Friday at 11:30 here on Access 7, and tell us what your favorite stuff is. You can get in touch with us at through Access, or through our website, or on Facebook at nightsofthedark.com, or on Facebook.
Yeah,
Nights of the Dark.
Nights of the Dark.
You'll find us. And I guess it's at that part of the show where you're going to leave us with some random footage. So enjoy. And this is an excerpt from our show. And once again, I'm Cole Smith.
I'm Ryan Krause.
And we're Nights of the Dark. Happy Halloween.
Are you stuck to this house? Do you understand what I say when I ask that? Well, if you guys would, are you here alone? And you'll notice, just keep an eye on the camera. Do you have more people with you? Watching?
Look at it.
Whoa! Needless to say, that was a little nerving.
Okay.
So we're going to kind of back up?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
Yeah, that was
you
pretty.
can let her roll.
Was there a bug that just flew by you guys?
Was there what?
A bug that just flew by you guys?
I didn't see
I
it.
don't know. Maybe this was on or something.
No, it's not. Okay, cool. I'll have to look at that later.
4.7. Ooh. 1.29. That's huge. What is it going to stop? Yeah.
Yeah, it was so weird. We come in there and they're like, "What do you want? We didn't call you." We're like, "What?" Clearly heard.
Call. Like, sitting in the distance. Listen. What is it going to stop? Yeah.
Like we answered just generically. Eh?
Yeah. Yeah.
Check 1, 2.
Okay, let's sync cameras.
1.4. Look at that.
Okay.
I don't know if you guys see that or not. What was that? Hey, Cole. There's something moving here upstairs. Let's see.
Boy, I tell you,
That was creepy.
that was, you hear how loud that was? I mean, that's pretty loud. That's like,
Cole,
yep, okay.
the whole goosebumps. Whew. Holy cow. The tap is on.
The what?
The tap is running.
Oh, that's creepy.
Okay, this next one, this is one of the coolest things. I've seen this on a couple other shows in the last maybe 15 years, ever once or twice. And what it is I'm talking and a voice cuts over my voice. It actually cuts out the microphone and you hear its voice saying one word, which I'll tell you what I think it says in a second. And then me continue talking. So it's like my microphone turned off for a second, someone said something, and then it carried on. It's crazy. Check this out.
Okay.
Remember, walk towards it as a form of communication. Sounds to me like iceberg, but I'm not sure if that's what it is. Don't know if you guys are hearing that.
And that's the sound from you in the basement picking up somebody walking upstairs.
Yes. Are you sad? Three, five. Alone, but be going alone. But so now we got, and I don't. This is either a creepy thud or a voice, and if it's a voice, it's insanely, bizarrely creepy. Make your presence known. Cool. 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 And you can still, after I moved, you can still hear something walking around for a couple seconds.
Yeah, yeah.
And to me, it felt like something. It was a felt like I actually was like, I don't know. I had like a really negative vibe at that point, and it literally to me felt like something was walking from point A to B towards us, and I felt threatened to the point that, as you've clearly seen, I had to jump back, and we checked for animals. We would put our head outside, and it was dead silent outside. I'm like, like I said, this thing, as you see in the video, was completely in the woods. So an animal walking by, you'd hear for 10 minutes, and there's no way it would have been so crazy silent. I'd put my head back in, and the inside of the church was louder than the outside.
And this is where we started holding the door.
Yeah, this is when everything went really south, and we're like, okay, we gotta leave. Yeah.